All right, guys, welcome in. Today we have a very special guest. You see him right here. Board of Trustees Chair at the University of South Carolina, Thad Westbrook. As always, here on GC Live, I'm Wes Mitchell. He is Chris Clark. Thad, we appreciate you taking the time today, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for asking me. You're the first to reach out and ask me to do something like this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. And you've been on the Board of Trustees for a long time with the university. But before we dive into that, I want to get some of your personal background.
Sure.
Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
How did you get involved with the University of South Carolina pre-board days? And tell me a little bit. I mean, you're a huge Gamecock fan.
Yeah.
See the logo there.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in West Columbia, went to Airport High School, and I went to USC undergrad and law school. My parents actually met at USC. They were one's from Anderson. My father's from Anderson. My mother's from Florence. They both went to junior colleges. My mother was at Francis Marion. My father was at Anderson Junior College at the time, and they transferred into USC to finish their second, third, and fourth year. And they met there, and then I was raised a Gamecock. So for me, actually, when I was looking at colleges, I was looking at USC, of course, but I was also looking at Furman and Wofford and some of the other schools. In fact, I was actually going to Furman until the day I graduated from high school. In my high school at Airport, we graduated in the Carolina Coliseum. And I came home and told my parents, like, look, I've got to go to USC. I've raised a Gamecock. I have to do it. So it's been in my blood my entire life. And it's certainly exciting to see what's happening now at the university. But, for me, growing up a Gamecock, it meant coming here to Williams-Brice Stadium, going to the Sarge, going to the Coliseum. The stories I heard growing up were, about Frank McGuire and the teams that he had here. My father watching Alex English play, who's now on the Board of Trustees with us. But it was something that I grew up with every day as a young person. For me, it's just part of my entire life.
I didn't realize your dad was from Anderson. That's where I'm from. Didn't know if you knew that. But Anderson Junior College, then graduated to a college, and now Anderson University, growing a lot. Got a football team now.
They have.
Crazy.
They've been growing a good bit. And, he was actually on the board there for a little while when they were at Anderson College, and he and the Westbrook side of the family was from Anderson. They moved around a little bit when he was a child, but they were based out of Anderson. So I actually did a federal clerkship at Anderson. So I spent 1 year in Anderson.
It's growing a lot too. First Gamecock football game, do you remember?
I don't remember my first game. It would have been early. So I have a couple of core early memories. So I remember in 5-year-old kindergarten, my father showed up and got me out of school. And I did not know why. It was not planned. He just showed up, took me out of school, and we were heading downtown. And so he actually took me into an event where George Rogers was speaking, being introduced and recognized for winning the Heisman. And so at that event, he spoke, and then there's a middle aisle. And I remember my father and a couple of the other men around pushed me to the aisle. George Rogers came by and he stopped and put out his hand, which his hand was huge. It was scarred up from all the battles on the football field. But I remember shaking his hand and how small my hand was compared to his. So I remember that kind of thing. I remember coming to a game which had to be before '83 because my father was at a luncheon upstairs. They had a lunch for some folks, and he brought me down. And one of the security guys let me run from one end of the field to the other, but it was AstroTurf at the time. So this would have been before '83 when it be changed and put grass back in. And he let me run from one end to the other. And I remember how long it took me to do it. It was like forever. And it gave me a greater appreciation for what the athletes were doing on the field. But I remember that. And then, that '84 season, we did a lot of road trips. We went to NC State with some other families who were friends and had a big RV, took us over. That was a big game for us that season. Big win, but we also lost Ken Haygood. He broke his leg, and I think had he not broken his leg, or his leg was broken that game, that I think he would have been able to help us beat Navy, beat Oklahoma State, or Really, if we beat Navy, we would have been playing for a national championship. So that was a core season for me as a young person, the Black Magic season. A lot of folks have heard about it. A lot of my memorabilia is like Joe Marston type stuff and Michael and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you told me that you have a Gamecock memorabilia collection. How'd you get started in that? Where do you keep it all?
Yeah, so I have a home office where it's kept, and I pick up things from time to time as I see whether it's an estate sale or I'll see people selling some things online. But some of it just things I've gathered on my own. Probably the one that means the most is going back to the '84 season. So if you remember that Clemson game, we went up there, we won, and there's William Refrigerator Perry was defensive lineman. At the end of the game, our team is kneeling to run out the clock, and the fridge comes up to Mike Holt, and Mike Holt takes the ball and it drops it at his feet, and there's some artwork around that, and some pictures that people drew and around and circulated and sold for that. But after that game, my parents were there. I was staying at my grandparents' house, and my parents went to the Sizzler up there, and Mike Holt was there with his family. So my father went over and took the 2 ticket stubs and asked Mike Holt to autograph them, and then brought them home, one for me and one for my brother. And so I still have that framed, and that's one that's wouldn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people, but to me it means a lot. But I've got a lot of other things that I've gathered over the years and really enjoyed, just kind of thinking back about different seasons, both all the sports that we have here.
Yeah, let's get into the board itself.
Sure.
I feel like it's almost to a lot of people this kind of mythical thing. Yeah. It gets talked about a lot, but maybe they don't know what the day-to-day looks like, what you guys actually do, what all that encompasses. What can you tell us, one, just about the Board of Trustees in general, and then your role as the chair of the board?
Sure. I am aware that we get talked about. I'm a member of Gamecock Central. I've been on the message boards for years. I don't post. I never have posted. I never will.
You don't have a burner account.
I do not. I would not do that. But I do read it, and so I read the message boards, and from time to time, it's not an everyday thing. So no offense, but I will check in from time to time, and so I do know that we get talked about. So the Board of Trustees is a volunteer group. We have 20 trustees right now. We have 3 vacant seats that I think the General Assembly will fill next year, hopefully, because that board governs the entire USC system. So it's not just Columbia. We have 8 campuses. So our 4-year comprehensive universities at Beaufort, Aiken, and Upstate. We've got 2-year campuses at Union, Lancaster, Sumter, Salkehatchie, which also has a campus at Walterboro. We've got the med schools, the law school, and then, of course, everything here in Columbia. And so that is a board that it comes from the legislature and the governor. We also have the superintendent of education who serves, and the alumni president serves. And so with that, we are meeting in committees and as a full board to govern the university. We really only have 3 hires. We hire the president of the university, we hire the internal auditor, and then we hire the board secretary. So we also hire the treasurer, but really those first 3 are the ones that spend the most of the time with us. And so for us, it is a body that creates policy, but really we are an oversight body. We set the budget. Probably one of the biggest things we do outside of a presidential selection process is setting the budget for the university. And we're looking at data all the time. And so for us, right now, we're going to have a meeting on the 22nd, and we'll be getting reports about where we are with enrollment and this freshman class, which, by the way, is going to be another record-size class. We're going to have more than 40,000 students on campus here in Columbia for the first time. We had more than 60,000 applications for the first time. So the University of South Carolina is a very hot place for people to apply to right now, at both in-state and out-of-state. We're going to have more in-state South Carolinians on campus and in this freshman class than we ever had before. So I'm really excited about where things are, but it's our responsibility to kind of provide that oversight for the president and the administration. We end up working with the faculty and the staff and making sure things are going well. But we're all volunteers, and all of us are Gamecock fans. We are all of us have a degree. We have one that doesn't have a degree from the university, the superintendent of education, but she's a huge supporter of the university. She has been with us on all the issues that we needed to address and been very supportive. So we've been really blessed with some great trustees. I really enjoy this group we work with. As chair, they elected me to serve. I'm starting my fourth year, so and I'll be my last year chair. But we have term limits for chairs. But it's been a great experience. As chair, it's really my responsibility to kind of shepherd the board along with what we need to be doing, fulfilling our responsibilities according to the bylaws. And for us, it's really just focused on our mission. Our mission as a university is to educate young people and to develop knowledge through research. There's a lot of stuff that people talk about nationally going on with universities, but at its core, that's what we need to be doing. And at the University of South Carolina, that's what we're much more focused on those core mission items than some other institutions, which I'm very proud of how we do that. But we, as an institution, we have opportunities to help develop the brand, and one way is through athletics. So a lot of people in higher ed refer to athletics as the front porch to the university, and you hear that where it's an introduction for young people to learn more about the university. They get captivated by athletics, and they get to see someone like Marcus Lattimore, great person, great athlete, and then they want to learn more about the university. So it's that front porch that welcomes people in, but whether you're a graduate or not, we have many fans who did not graduate from the university, and they're huge Gamecocks, and I appreciate that. And so athletics is a key part of what we do, but the bulk of what we do as a board is elsewhere,
right?
Particularly on the academic side and the financial side. That's where we spend most of our time. But athletics is a large function. A lot of money spent in athletics, so it does get some attention.
I was going to say, so the scope of what y'all do very much beyond just athletics, but we know that the passion comes from what's going on behind it here at Williams-Brice Stadium, and that's where you get. You're talking about the message board, social media. That's where you get opinions, and I think maybe one of the greatest things about this place is how much people care. And your role, how do y'all kind of balance all right, we want to know what the people think. We want to know what they want out of their university and their athletics versus, okay, that was just a game day overreaction from what they saw. How do you kind of just balance all the different? I'm sure you get a lot of feedback, much like Coach Beamer, from the Gamecock public, and all that stuff matters. But how do y'all kind of balance all that out?
Yeah, so we get feedback from you guys in the media. I'll get it from friends by text, but we do have passionate fans, and that's a great benefit for us. And I know people get really excited about issues from time to time. We've got some current things pending that people are talking about, I know, and that's good. I mean, I would be much more concerned if we were at a place that we can't sell out our stadium. We're 30, 40,000 are showing up, and people aren't on message boards talking about us. They're not looking at what's happening in the media. They're not tuning into the Netflix special, where we were promptly featured with the SEC special any given Saturday. So I would be much more concerned. I mean, that's when red flags go off if people are losing interest. But there is a lot of passion, there's a lot of excitement. I think you learn to look at things in my position, kind of look at the long term, because there may be a bad Saturday. But that doesn't mean we're not going to have a great Saturday the next week, like we had last season. We had some low days, and then we had some really high days, and that happens in college athletics. You're dealing with young people, coaches who are working with young people who those kids, they care. And the one thing that probably bothers me is the fan says, "Well, they don't care." They do. I mean, I was at practice yesterday, and they're out in the heat, it's muggy, and they're just working their tails off, and they care. I mean, they really care about what they're doing as an athlete, for their teammates. They care about how they represent the university. It is it's a job for those guys, and particularly in summer camp, it's tough, but it's a job for them. And so the support that the university provides them is key to helping them be successful, both as athletes and individuals. But it's hard work. And so anytime a fan says that they don't care, that they're wrong. But that is not true. They put in more time than any of us did. Some of us spend a lot of money on athletics. They put blood, sweat, and tears into it. So they do care about what they're doing. So we never come down on the kids.
Right.
You can blame the board, blame the president, blame the coaches. That's fine. But those student athletes are working hard, not just football, but across all sports. It's a full-time job.
Let's get into the state of some of the programs, but also I want to tie it in the Netflix special, episode 5, which was the one where they got into the A&M game. Obviously, massive win here. I don't know if there could have been a better, just like if you'd never watched South Carolina before, never seen Coach Beamer, never been around the program, and you watched the lead up to that game, then the celebration in the locker room, then him singing to his wife, singing to Emily with the guys around him singing along. I don't know if there could have been a better intro to maybe just what he's all about. So what have you just thought overall of the football program where it is right now, and just the branding maybe that the program got from the Netflix special?
Yeah, so I'm excited about the culture around the football program. Just what I see both within the team, in the athletic department, and around Columbia and the university statewide, the culture is exactly what we want. You got coaches that care about their student athletes, the student athletes who care about each other, who care about the coaches. They work hard and they fight for each other. That game was huge for us. We had several moments last season that were big for us. We were a playoff team. I really firmly believe that we should have been in the playoffs. Particularly, there's really nobody who wanted to play us. If we had full roster, everybody playing, nobody wanted to play us at the end of last season. And I think we would have done some damage going into the playoffs. And that's how I feel about the team this year. I think this is a team that can compete for the playoffs and should be right there in the thick of things at the end of the season. Likely making it to the playoffs. The thing about the University of South Carolina and the football program, the atmosphere of the stadium, but what the student body brings and our fans bring, and what Justin King has done with the whole game day environment, music and the sound. I mean, it's an experience. So if you remember, last summer we had Man United and Liverpool came and played here, but that doesn't happen by accident. So the promoter who was responsible for setting up friendlies for Premier League teams saw our game against Kentucky the year before and saw that it was a night game, saw all the excitement, and called Chance Miller. They had a relationship and talked to him about bringing one of those friendlies. So we had to bid, and we beat out several other huge stadiums and schools to get that game here. But it's because of a promoter seeing our game day environment with our fans, our students, and all the excitement. And so that carries on, season to season now. It's an expectation. I feel sorry for Justin having to raise the expectation. The expectations are raised every year with the music and the whole experience for everybody. But at the end of the day, what happens on the field, that's what matters. Columbia is a lot different when we win, and so and of course my job's a lot different. I'm probably not checking the message boards. No, I'm kidding. I get fewer phone calls. So the president gets fewer phone calls. So we're in a great place right now.
This interview is brought to you, as always, by our good friend Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. You hear us tell you about Clint all the time here on the show, all of our streaming platforms. He is our presenting sponsor. ClintHammond.com, 803-422-6797. The NMLS number is always 71597. If you have any questions about home ownership, if you're thinking about the possibility that you may need a home loan at some point in the future, make sure you check out our friend Clint, longtime GamecockCentral.com subscriber, great friend of the program, big South Carolina fan. So give him a call. If you got any questions about the mortgage process, thinking about buying a home, he'll be glad to talk Gamecock sports with you and about the latest in the mortgage game. Clint Hammond, CMG Home Loans, ClintHammond.com or 803-422-6797. We appreciate his support of the show. Make sure you hit him up for any of your mortgage needs. Now back to the interview.
Yeah, and I definitely want to dive in more to the stadium since you mentioned Liverpool, Man U, and some of the different things that are going on facilities-wise. We'll get into that, but a quick detour just on Shane Beamer since you brought up culture. So your first year of the board would have been, I guess, his last year as an assistant here before he left.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that's correct. 2010. So I'm sure you knew, who Shane Beamer was, but do you remember kind of the first time when there was a coaching search, you're on the board, and Shane Beamer's name comes up somehow?
Yeah.
What do you remember about that and just the whole process that led him to?
So the way those searches work is the athletic director is responsible for going out and identifying who the candidates are. And whenever you see there's a change, candidates come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And so and the athletic director will sometimes have a person who's a right hand within the athletic department helping, who sometimes will have a search firm as well. And so I remember with that search, Ray's running the search, and he's reporting to the president. And and we hear things from time to time about what's going on. It's obviously a head coach is a big investment for the university, so we do pay attention to it. But it's up to the athletic director and to the president to make the recommendation for where we go. The board approves the contract. At the end of the day, that's the only role we have officially is to approve the contract. And so there's some discussion, particularly with the board chair, to figure out, do these terms make sense? Will the board approve this contract? So obviously we have tremendous trust in our athletic director and the president, so we're going to default to trusting their recommendation. But I do, Shane's name came up early, I remember. Plus, the athletic director has a short list. At any given moment, they're going to know, something terrible happens or whatever. They're going to kind of know where they're going to go in the interim. As far as candidates they're going to look at quickly. So Shane is someone who was in the mix early on, and he was working. I mean, I heard his name popping up different places. When Shane said that this is the job he wanted and the place he wanted to be, that was true from the outset. That was not coach speak. He does coach speak. They all do, but that was not coach speak. That was legitimate interest, a desire really to be at the University of South Carolina based on the experience he had here under Coach Spurrier. And you saw then what we could be. You saw back in '84 what we could be, and so I thought looking at the potential, he knew this is kind of the right kind of place to build a program that's competing for championships. And so he was there early on, and I'm glad he was. He's done a great job.
Yeah. So let's talk about future of the football program. Let's kind of loop in a couple other things. The stadium, Williams-Brice is behind us, NIL, all those different things. Let's talk through all that. Where do you feel like South Carolina, and we can talk about athletics generally, where is South Carolina compared to some of these other competitors? Because I feel like something that's on Gamecock fans' minds right now it's NIL. You've got schools like Texas, Ohio State, who have deep pockets, etc. How is South Carolina going to keep up and compete? So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but just generally, where do you feel like USC is relative to?
So you're really talking about where we are now and where other institutions are now versus where they've been the last few years.
Yeah.
So if you go back a few years, NIL, things started slowly. There are some schools who got out of the box quickly. There were donors who dropped in some money that were with collectives that were moving things along quickly, and then others were building, and we're building. But there was a moment where a couple of years ago where we really took off. One of the things we did is we spun out the Gamecock Club to a separate 501c3. Gave it a lot more flexibility. They're in contract with a Garnet Trust and kind of work with them on contracting with players. We were part of an effort to pass a state law here that allowed booster clubs to engage in NIL. And that state law change helped us tremendously. It was something they had done in Missouri and some other states, Tennessee. So that gives a lot more flexibility to use funds that are Gamecock Club related for NIL. And so until this past June, you had collectives and booster clubs who were basically putting together contracts for athletes. So you had a payroll that you were meeting to both incentivize your athletes to stay, and then as recruits were coming in, they were looking at what the possibilities are, and then if they committed and they came, then they were getting a contract. There was a lot of misinformation provided to athletes at different institutions. I would hear about it, but I wonder, how did we lose this athlete? And I would hear what the kind of story is. They were promised this at this other school, and then it didn't work out. And you saw multiple stories where athletes were promised contracts that didn't pan out, and that's where some programs were hoping just to get them on campus and keep them. And then there's some agents involved, and some agents were better than others, and so there's some good ones who are really looking out for the athletes and the families, and then there's some who are not. And so it became a really difficult environment for coaches and programs to operate, because athletes are free agents every year and multiple times a year with the transfer portal. And so you had the Power 4, one time Power 5 institutions sued in the House case out of California. And that settlement was agreed to in part because under those terms, they bring some stability. And now you hear about the SCORE Act and other things happening in Washington, D.C., trying to codify some of this. But right now, we operate under the House settlement. Prior to that, if you look at the team that we had on the field last year, that was no accident. That was investment in NIL programs and contracts, so that Coach Beamer and his staff had the athletes available to compete and win those games that we won last year, and to be right at the threshold of the playoff, where, again, we should have been there. We should have been in the playoff. And so you see that was very intentional, some of the moves that were made to make sure the money was available to have those athletes on the roster. Leading into this year, we had efforts made to retain talent and help with the portal and bring in new talent. And then now we're under the new system. So now it's a much more even playing field, but there is the opportunity to go beyond that. So when I say an even playing field, what I mean is that under the House settlement, athletic programs are capped at $20.5 million. That number will go up over time, but right now for this season, we're capped. So whatever money is spent for athletes, NIL, that is got to be under the cap. So what you had going on prior to the House settlement was some programs, some out in the Midwest people talk about, that were had a billionaire come in and just start spending money. And so the market was flooded with cash, where a linebacker that would cost 5 figures was now getting 6 figures, and even bigger numbers than that for some of them, because the market kind of got out of whack for a while. But you had programs who were front loading before the House settlement was finalized to get some contracts, and you got some. It's going to be interesting this season. There's some athletes who've been paid up front at some schools. Let's see how things go with that. But now you've got a structure where you got to work within the cap. But with that, the athletic department has the ability to move some of the money around, based on support for football, basketball, baseball, other soccer, other softball, other sports. But you can also do what I call legitimate NIL, business marketing contracts. So, if Bojangles wanted to have one of our athletes sponsor, be a sponsor of that athlete and have our athlete endorse what they're doing, well, they can present a contract. But now we have to go to the CSC. So the College Sports Commission, newly created a couple months ago, reviews those contracts, and they will tell us whether or not that's a legitimate contract. It's supported by Deloitte with software that they use, and they hired a guy from Major League Baseball, and a guy named Brian Seeley, who's running that. He will become a major name in college athletics now because of it. And so they're looking at data and they're determining, all right, does this proposed contract for an endorsement deal, for autograph signing, does that meet the market? And so the numbers are smaller than as far as what's being approved. It's a lot smaller than what you've seen in the past. So you're going to see schools working with third parties or working within to bring on legitimate NIL contracts for their athletes, and that will give student athletes an opportunity to earn beyond what is part of the revenue share, that under that cap. So it's a complicated system. It's a new world, but because of that, we've been competitive the last couple of years in the NIL. There are a couple of outliers. Like Ohio State won the national championship. They had a significantly high payroll compared to most other institutions. But you look at where we are positioned. We're positioned very well. One, there's some there's some parity now with what is allowed, and of course we're fully participating. That was never in doubt. We were always going to fully participate, but we're also working to go beyond that, to go above the cap with legitimate contracts that are approved by the CSC. I think when you look at the roster, see the players on the field, you'll see we've got talent just like many of these other institutions. And I think we're a team that a lot of schools don't want to play with the talent we have. I don't want Dylan Stewart coming to me from the imposition, and of course, you're trying to stop Lenora Sellers, his arm and his legs. Those guys and others are going to create some nightmares for some other teams.
What do you see especially for the above the cap, which we know, you cap it, schools are going to try to find a way to go above. And what do you see the role of Garnet Trust being with that, and just in this newer iteration that we're in?
Yeah, so I'm hoping we don't see McDonald's bags and that kind of stuff, like you've heard about before. But there will be some people who will try to get around it. And that happens. I mean, that happens not just in college athletics, but in all systems. There are people who try to game the system, and but the penalties are severe for people who try to play games and game the system. It would be detrimental to a program to do something like that and get caught. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be policed better than it has been policed before. And so you've got that aspect of it. But for us, we are looking to identify different targets who can come in and help fund some of those contracts for us.
When you look at the 20.5 mil, that is the current revenue share number, it maybe sounds like a lot, but then when you start thinking about some of these rosters, you can eat that up pretty quickly. Yeah. What all goes into? And I know we'll get into Jeremiah Donati hopefully here. I know he said, "Hey, we're not putting out the specifics on the percentages. What is football? What is basketball? But just in general, what kind of goes into making those decisions? We know football is the big revenue generator, but there's a great women's soccer program here, a growing softball program here. How do y'all kind of balance just all that, trying to make sure every program has the resources it needs?
So one, we're not putting out specifics. We're not going to do it because as soon as we say X amount of dollars for football or basketball, then our competitors are going to say, all right, well, we've got
X plus one.
So we're not going to do specifics. But obviously with football, the revenue generator, that's the bulk of the investment. But we are investing in other sports. I think Jeremiah's done a great job working with the coaches. He communicates really well, from what I'm told, and they're all working together and to make sure that the coaches need get the money they need to build out the rosters and have the talent to compete in the SEC. The money that that is spent is fluid, so you don't have to do the same amount every year depending on what the needs are. I'm also interested at basketball, particularly men's basketball, because some of the rosters that other schools had last year and the payroll, I don't, unless they're taking money from football, I don't see how they're going to maintain their payrolls. Some of them are front loaded this year, so they'll be able to maybe get through this next season. But for the following season, I'm really curious how it's going to work, because a lot of those athletes are not going to be able to participate in rev share like they've been doing now, and there's not going to be enough legitimate NIL contracts to maintain the salary. So that'll be interesting to see just for men's basketball. But it's more of I think it's more of an art form than a science for the athletic director to communicate with the coaches about what they need and where the priorities are. Obviously, for us, you're going to see heavy investment in football, women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball. And so there's you saw some things in the transfer portal with baseball. Athletes coming in, that's no accident. You're working with the coach and the program to recruit people from the portal and to make sure they're compensated fairly compared to their peer programs. But other sports as well. You see NIL and soccer and softball and some of the others. Obviously football is the giant, and that's to be expected in an SEC school.
So to go back to the just the revenue share and then how that fits into the whole picture, obviously schools, institutions have been in a position where you don't have the revenue share ever in the past, and now you flip the switch, now you got it, and it's scaling every year. Yeah. In addition to that, we always talk about how consumer prices are rising. Prices are rising for the university. Yeah. On the other side, Shane Beamer's first contract here was $3 million or so. Now it's $8 million, and he's earned that in terms of the market. But staff costs, facilities costs, all those different things. So how do you mentioned earlier the board, the budget's a big part of it. Like, how do you think about that nowadays?
Yeah. Let me mention one thing about Shane and the staff. Yeah. So at practice yesterday, at the end of practice, Shane brought all the trainers, all the digital crews, everybody to the front, in front of the whole team, to recognize them and thank them for what they're doing. And he told a story about how rain. One practice ended with a bunch of rain, and the trainers and the staff and everybody, they're out there outside in the middle of the rain, but just gathering up everything, bringing everything in, and doing all that. And those are folks who don't make a whole lot of money, or they're a graduate assistant. And they're doing it because they love the program, they love their job. And so I appreciated him recognizing the staff around the football team that supports what they do. But you're right. Revenue is important for us in college athletics, and looking at new revenue streams is really important. So you've got a couple projects going on here, and I'm reading what other schools are doing. Some people are just kind of saying, look, we're participating in the house settlement, and we're going to find new money. And they're not very specific. And I get it. Here, there's a plan. You look at what we're doing with Williams-Brice Stadium. That's going to be a $350 million investment in the stadium. That's going to touch all parts of the stadium. So there's going to be a huge component related to premium seating that's going to generate new revenue for us. That revenue goes to offset rev share that we're doing under the house settlement. We're also touching bathrooms, particularly women's bathrooms. We're looking at points of sale, additional points of sale for concessions. You'll see the concourses will expand. So there'll be more room to move around in the concourses, particularly on the west side. If you look at some of the ramps on the lower level, there's some gaps. Expect those to be filled in where there's additional space for people to move around, so more freedom of movement. The student section is going to change. And I think you should expect that the students are going to have an air-conditioned space, like a club space behind this lower deck here, because We're in the Floyd building now. You're talking about below here, and then other vantage points for them to watch the game over here, because students are investing in this as well. You're going to see a lot of changes. You're going to see the visiting locker room move to the other corner where the visitors sit, and the loading docks will be moved to that side. Full service kitchens will be put in. So a lot of different changes are happening for the stadium, and a lot of that drives new revenue. You also have heard about the entertainment district that we're talking about around the stadium. I know that's got some that's been a point of discussion for a little while now on the message boards, and we're in a process now where there are bidders who have been interviewed, and the university is selecting a master developer and working to head towards a contract for that. And that you're going to see this part of Williams-Brice change. We made available land around the stadium, land down towards the river, to see what developers can do. And so they're going to dream big with us about what's possible here. And so you expect to have mixed-use properties where there's condos, retail space, see a hotel in this area, and all geared around a new entertainment district, not only for the benefit of the university, but for the city of Columbia. We've been in communication with city leaders and state leaders about it, and that's a new opportunity for us to generate revenue for the university. So you've got those two things going on. You just saw the announcement, I think a week ago, about record-breaking fundraising. You saw the field logo announcement, a huge commitment from the Blanchards and Cat to do that. And we're one of a handful, I think maybe 5 programs that will have a field logo sponsor. That is significant money coming into the program. So there are ways to generate money. We talked about in the past, when you think about the stadium, we only have 16 boxes right now. That is by far the last in the conference. And some of them have 120, some other schools. We're not going to have that many, but that's a real opportunity for us. We're competing now with other SEC programs who have 120 suites that they're selling every season and generating revenue. Well, that's new revenue. They've already spent theirs. That's new revenue for us that we are going to be able to allocate to cover rev share and the increases in college athletics and spending. We're not immune to inflation. We've dealt with it as well over the last couple of years, and so I think with the new revenue streams coming in and some of the creativity going around what they're working on in the athletic department, we've got a real opportunity to not only be competitive, but to be in the top tier with the new revenue coming in to the university.
I mean, how much of a game changer? Well, first of all, let's talk about timeline a little bit. We have a little bit more of a timeline for the stadium project in terms of, hey, some elements will be done in, some elements will be done. I feel like people don't have as good of a sense. I don't certainly about, okay, how long around the stadium for some of these land development projects? I know it depends on a lot of factors, but what's kind of the timeline where we could expect some transformation?
So what you have now is progress towards identifying the developer and working on a contract. And so it's moving ahead. Then it becomes, what's the developer think they can do with bringing in an anchor hotel, a national brand? What can they do as far as developing the condos, recruiting retail once they get an idea? So, it's hard to say what the timeline is now, but it's moving. It's certainly sooner the better for us, because we want the additional revenue.
That's right.
So, and we want that for our program, for our university. So, but we're not going to launch into something that could potentially fail, because we're not going to, just because there's the need for additional revenue or desire for additional revenue, we're not going to just make a deal and hope things work out. So it's been very methodical, probably taken longer than some people wanted it to take, but it's moving along now. And I'm optimistic about it. We did visit the Battery, for example, where the Braves play. like an idea, like how does this work? And their developer talked to us, and we had a consultant talk to us about what they were doing there. So some of the university leadership had an opportunity to see how that took off, and it's a fantastic place for entertainment, not only on game day but throughout the year. So those are the kind of things we're looking at, and you see that at different places across the country. You saw the NFL draft was at Titletown. That was another development. And you look at the Star, what they did in Frisco for the Cowboys, then around Jerry World. These things are happening across the country, and so there's a model for how it's done, but we want to do it the right way. So we're not going to just launch into something too quick.
Before we get you back to the interview, let's take a moment to tell you about two more of our great partners here on GamecockCentral.com. The first is Palmetto Golf and Belts. If you love golf, you need to make sure you check out our friend Brandon Cohn's online shop at palmettogolfing.com for the latest custom-made gear. If you don't play golf, Palmetto Golf and Belts is still a great place to grab a gift for your favorite golfer. Custom golf gloves, custom golf tees, custom golf towels, all available in the South Carolina Garnet, the Cross design, the Palmetto Tree and Moon design, and more. And one of the coolest things in the shop, the needlepoint belts, extremely well made, also more affordable than many others on the market. Brandon Cohn, big South Carolina fan, longtime member over at GamecockCentral.com, and our members are loving the products that Brandon has. And his brand new online shop, specials running all the time. Head on over to palmettogolfing.com today. Check out his shop. Let's also tell you about our friends over at Ferry Chevrolet. That's ferrychevrolet.com. If you're a South Carolina fan out there who's interested in a new or used vehicle, make sure you check out the fine folks over at Ferry Chevrolet in Orangeburg, led by a fourth-generation dealer in Joseph Ferry. The family-owned business over at Ferry Chevrolet has been serving the community since 1926. It's conveniently located just off of I-26 between Columbia and Charleston. And the folks over at Ferry Chevrolet are local, trustworthy, always transparent. The business began in St. Matthews and was built on honesty, integrity, and a handshake. And they still operate with those same principles to this day. Head on over to ferrychevrolet.com today to check out their inventory and get in touch, or give them a call, 803-937-4531, ferrychevrolet.com. Now back to the interview.
Well, I think interesting, though, the examples you brought up there are at the pro level. So this is, I think, an advantage in a lot of ways for a college program, an SEC program. I mean, nobody's doing this.
Yeah. So Tennessee's talking about doing something on the river down there next to Calhoun's. So they've got some opportunity there. There are some other schools who are talking about it, but some people have been upset that our stadium's not on our campus. If it was on our campus, we could not do this. Yeah. But because of where we are and the land that we have around us, we do have this opportunity. So it is a bit unique to us. And so with the excitement there is around the university and around the city of Columbia and South Carolina, we're a state that we're drawing in residents from other states are moving to South Carolina. So we're a growth state. We've got a real opportunity here, but we just want to be sure we do it the right way.
Can I go ahead and make a plea that we get a Biscuit House back? Do y'all remember Biscuit House?
I do.
Across
Yes.
from the stadium on Bluff Road?
We'll put you
back
in
in the day.
Developer,
Okay.
whenever they're selected, and then you can make that pitch.
Just throwing that out there. But you touched on this earlier, but how important is it for, let's say, I don't want to say casual fan, just the average person who's going out, not sitting in a premium seating spot. They may be like, oh man, those boxes, those look great, but I'll never sit in one of those. How important is it to also use this opportunity? You talked about the concourse, the point of sale, the bathrooms. That's something you hear about a lot, the lines and concessions. How important is it to use this opportunity while you're doing all this other construction behind us eventually to make sure that the average fan gets an upgraded experience as well?
Yeah. So, it's all about the game day experience. And now with television and the opportunity for people to build the outdoor kitchen with TV and to watch the games there, but without having to deal with traffic and things like that. We know these are competitive ways for people to watch football. So we have to be mindful of the game day experience. We've done a lot of that on the entertainment side, which I think is going very well. And so the experience, we want to improve it. There's a real opportunity to improve it. And so you see additional points of sale to make the sessions better for people. Bathrooms, I hear about it every season, legitimate concern that is being addressed. Plus, you're going to have things like better food options with the full service kitchen they're putting in, 2 new scoreboards on the south side of the stadium, right now above the ramps. So it's going to be an overall better experience for everybody. As we know, we're competing with the television networks for eyeballs. So we think right now we are a destination on game day. People want to be here. I hear people, I talk to people all across the country who want to come to Williams-Brice Stadium for the game day experience, just to be here and just to be a part of it one day. So that's a real opportunity for us. And so, we're trying to generate revenue, but we're also mindful that there's 80,000 fans around, and then of course beyond that, 100,000 plus. We include the parking lots. There are opportunities for us to improve the entire experience. So when you think about the renovations, everything from bathrooms and points of sale to premium space to the entertainment district around the stadium. In a few years, you're going to see some major changes, and it's a long-term commitment to just a better experience here.
You mentioned the soccer match last year. Do you think, or do you hope and envision the possibility of just non-football events of any type becoming, I don't know, commonplace is the word, but just happening maybe a little bit more frequently?
Yeah, I do. We saw how well that went. That's a revenue generator for us. But promoters saw how well it went here. And so that gives us an opportunity to bring in some more. You saw Fluminense, Brazil's leading club team, use our facilities at soccer for the Club World Cup. We were their home base. They went to the semifinals and Final Four for the Club World Cup. We've got national teams who are looking at us right now for the World Cup. And so they're looking at our facilities for that. But for the stadium, I expect, and I know that our athletic department is working on additional opportunities for the stadium to be used beyond football. And when you have what we're talking about building around the stadium, it's going to be even more attractive for some of those events.
What stands out to you so far from what you've observed with Jeremiah Donati, who's in his first year here in South Carolina?
Yeah, doing a great job. He's creative. He's coming from another institution, another part of the country, where he's seen some things they've done there. I think it's interesting. His background was as a sports agent at one time, so he was seeing that side of it, which is timely for us since we're dealing with revenue share and NIL. But he's got a lot of energy. I mean, he works all the time, and he's being creative about some things we're doing. And it's good to have some fresh eyes to look at things. The good thing for him is we're in great shape. So the work that Ray did, particularly around the athletic department, facilities, you think about, there are other places that are having to spend money to build facilities that we have or have had for a while. So he doesn't have to, he's focused on a football stadium. And other than that, it's generating revenue, working on the student athlete experience, those kind of things. And for us, we're in a great position with our coaches. With our coaches, we've got a great staff across all sports, and they take care of the things you're supposed to take care of. The academics. We expect our students to do well in school and graduate. That's a given. You don't get a bonus for that. That is a given. You expect them to be good ambassadors and representatives of the university. We do that. We don't have the off-season stuff like some other places do. Those are a given. We expect that to happen. Our coaches do a great job with our student athletes. And so when you have that foundation, you have the great work that Ray's done. By the way, Ray's still raising money for the university. He is raising a significant amount of money for us to help fund all this. And so when you have that firm foundation, and you get Jeremiah with a new set of eyes, some different experience, some creativity, and things are really taking off in the athletic department. So, in fact, there's some good things happening now. I would say in the next couple of weeks, you'll hear some new announcements about some new things. I think the field logo surprised people. there'll be some more things coming and some good things coming for us.
You want to announce them today?
Yeah.
No, I will not.
I'll be back on 2 weeks.
Look, I don't want to steal Jeremiah's thunder.
Okay, yeah,
or the president's thunder, or even. I mean, we talked a lot about athletics, but I want to spend a minute talking about the university side. I talked about a little bit of that earlier, but what's happening with the university is really special right now. When you look at the higher ed community across the nation, just Google, and you'll see there are schools, large schools, that are freezing expenses. They are, freezing hires. They're cutting. They're laying off. That's not happening here, and there's good reason why. And so, and which I'll get into, but you see a very dynamic higher ed space, and you have other places where states are not investing in higher ed. That's not happening here. So, at the University of South Carolina, several years ago, 2017 and 2018, we actually, on our own, cut some administrative expenses, took those cuts and moved it all to academic programs. With that, created a fund for the president to use on academic programs. Well, the president has been in the middle of a 2-year faculty hire. So we're hiring 100 new faculty for the university. We're talking tenure track faculty that are coming in throughout the university as we're growing due to the needs, the demand here at the university. And so while other schools are freezing hiring, other schools are laying off, we're adding faculty. And that's because of savings that were made by the board and the president several years ago, and decisions made several years ago. Those funds are available. You see that the state legislature and the governor just invested $350 million in a new neuroscience hospital at the University of South Carolina. This will be the first hospital that we own and operate. And that is the largest single investment in higher ed in the history of the state for one project. And when you look at South Carolina, we're in the stroke belt. We're in a neuro desert as far as the healthcare available for those kind of things. The traumatic brain injury, Alzheimer's, stroke. Now, we're going to be the first in the Southeast to have a specialty neuroscience hospital, so that when you're at one of the other hospitals throughout the state and who do a great job, but there's a specialty level of care or surgery that's needed, or equipment that's needed, typically you'd have to go to Chicago, Phoenix, Seattle. Well, soon you'll have one in South Carolina, and it'll be for South Carolinians. That's the investment that our state leaders have made in us to build this and to do that for South Carolinians, and to be the first in the Southeast to have that quality of care. That's a huge opportunity for the University of South Carolina. And while other states are dealing with cuts from their state leaders, we are receiving investment. And that partnership with state government matters as far as the investment that they're making in us and what we're doing. They've been helping us keep tuition flat. And we've kept tuition flat for now 7 years for in-state students. So our in-state students are able to access the university at the same prices that people were paying 7 years ago. That's great. And that's thanks to the state helping us out with that type of investment.
You mentioned the huge enrollment numbers. I think you said 40,000 coming in.
We'll have more than 40,000 on campus. Yes. So the freshman class will not be that big.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Not 40,000 freshmen. Yeah. But what do you attribute the jump or getting to those high numbers? Is it a combination of front porch athletics things and then just some of the other academic initiatives? What do you?
So there's a lot. I mean, when students are making decisions these days, they're not making decisions because of athletics, but it has an impact.
Yeah.
There are students who want to have the SEC football experience or basketball. They want to be part of the excitement. It helps to be in South Carolina. I mean, it's a beautiful state, great weather. It helps to be here. So you got that, but then you look at the academic side and the programs that we're investing in, and the opportunity for people to better themselves, their families' lives. You see that at the University of South Carolina. So I'm second generation college. My father and my mother were first generation. And my father was the first in his family to go to college. And I saw the benefit it had for them, and for me as a child, my family. And so I see other people doing that. And first gen students mean a lot to me. And for us to be accessible and affordable for first generation students to come in, I see the impact it has on them and their families. And so when you see students who are investing, and so the costs are kept down here, they're able to invest in their future and then go into programs, whether it's nursing, or engineering, health sciences. They're able to get an education that leads to a better future for them. And that's why we're here. The athletics is fun, but that's why we're here. And so those are the things that we are focused on growing the university. And so when you put all those things together, we've got great alignment from the board to the president to the provost and faculty, the staff, the athletics, and the other ancillaries around the university. That alignment, people see good things are happening. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a professor of ours, and he was talking about how great things are right now. We're talking about the culture, and you've never seen it better here. And we have a great president. He's doing a fantastic job, and so that helps us recruit people. They see good things are happening. People want to be a part of it. They see an opportunity to better themselves. We have a lot of programs that people are able to go and learn. Whether it's like I said, nursing or healthcare or engineering, or they want to be a writer, whatever. We covered a broad waterfront with the educational opportunities here, and so that's very attractive.
I mean, must be a writer. Yeah. No, I feel that though. I mean, maybe this will make you feel good. I'm first generation in my family, and left Anderson, came to football game.
See, front porch,
hung out. Yeah. It's like, don't need to see anywhere else. This is where I'm going. Met my wife here.
Right.
So, there you go. Big impact.
Yeah. I was here 04, 08. The campus looks completely different than it did. Can you just kind of speak to how it's changed, over the last couple of decades, and then what you maybe envision? I know we're kind of looking deep into the future, but you could have, obviously, and I feel like the stadium out here, if you kind of add everything we've talked about together, you talk about this being transformed where it almost connects with the campus over there. And how fulfilling would it be just to kind of know you would be a part of that?
Yeah. So where we are today, people don't realize we're sitting in former Coach Holtz's and Coach Spurrier's office in the Floyd building. And from behind the camera, you can see the skyline of Columbia. Yeah. And when you look at the skyline, of course, you're looking at the University of South Carolina right here, this part of it. And it's changed a good bit since I was here. I'm a 96 undergraduate, 99 law, and it's changed a good bit since I've been here. The growth towards the river and that Green Street corridor is much different, both with research facilities there, new housing there, the Greek Village, the Strom Wellness Center, and then the additional academic buildings. And you're going to see more of that. You're going to see some changes in the engineering district. So you're going to see some investment around the core campus. So we have a facilities master plan called USC Next, and we are not only building new. For example, there'll be a new STEM building coming. We expect that'll be in the core campus near the former law school building, which is now where I went to law school. It's now lab space and classrooms. So you'll see new academic buildings, and then we're renovating existing buildings. So one that will be really different is McKissick. McKissick Museum was built at the head of the horseshoe, behind where the old President's House used to be. That was torn down. McKissick was built as a WPA project, and it was a library, and then became a museum. Well, we're re-envisioning how that's used, and we're going to put classrooms in there. And there's going to be a cafe on the backside. So on the backside, if you're familiar with Gibbs Green, that round walk path behind it that goes up to Capstone, that's going to be opened up to where there'll be student access to be able to hang out there in that green space, with a cafe, but also classrooms in that building. So students are accessing classroom space, which we need with the growth we had in our student population, to be able to have more classes on the core campus. You saw Campus Village built out, brand new dormitories. Campus Village has its own food service, wellness center, some classroom space, but it is necessary. It was necessary for us to build out new dormitories because of the growth. The foundation just built Gateway 737 right off Green Street. Beautiful new facility that is housing a lot of our upperclassmen. So we are, we're in a growth mode clearly at the university, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for our state. So when we are looking at again what we're doing and the decisions we're making as a university, it goes back to what I mentioned before about the mission. What is the mission of the university? It's to serve our students, educate students, to develop knowledge. And so when we're doing that, we also have to build out the infrastructure, and that's housing. Sometimes it's not as interesting as an energy plant that we got to work on. So those kind of things are happening as well that people don't read about, but it's all part of the infrastructure to support the university, to support the mission.
Yeah, I was just seeing some pictures of some folks that we know, family friends that are moving in to USC, and I'm like, man, we've come a long way from the honeycombs,
Yeah. That's probably my first year. I was in the honeycombs.
Yeah.
So that's my first year, and I lived on the horseshoe after that. Yeah. So I'll tell people, look, if you're, I don't know when this will be shown, but if you're this weekend, a lot of students coming.
Yeah.
So if you need to go to Target or anything, go now. Because this weekend is about to get very busy.
Yeah. Target on Garner's Ferry is already just hammered.
So right now you just got sorority rush and band students for the most part.
Yeah.
But that's our sorority rush crowd is the largest we've ever had, and about the same as any other school in the SEC. So it's a huge undertaking and a huge area of excitement for a lot of our students.
The campus village you were talking about, is that where Bates, like in front of Bates House? I lived in Bates House freshman year. So
it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. That was an experience. Great experience. But this is a little bit out of the scope of what we're talking about, but it kind of ties into the university's relationship with the city and how I think you hope maybe those two things can be aligned. You mentioned the river earlier. What would your hope be? Like, I live here. Chris lives in the area too. What would your hope be just kind of for us as a city to continue to develop out towards the river?
So you see the baseball stadium down there towards the river. The greenway, the walkway, the river walk is there. The Ginyard family owns the riverfront there, and they are working with the city to see about opportunities there for a park, for opening up that space. They've been in dialogue for a while. We certainly have interest in that opportunity. And you see the investment we made in Green Street. The county paid for the bridge over the railroad track, the new bridge there next to the arena. And so you have actually a real corridor gateway into the university going up from UG to Green Street. That's a beautiful area of the campus. And you get the village on one side, the alumni center, and research buildings and public health on the other side. So it's just a great place. 650 Lincoln right there, Fort Dollamore School of Business. Just a great corridor. Well, to be able to leapfrog across UG into that green space towards the river would be a huge advantage to us. It'd be great for the city. And so that we're very excited about the dialogue that's going on there, and I hope it progresses soon.
I want to go back to athletics for one more question. And I don't know how much, I think you spend some time thinking about this, especially with your background in the legal world. But where do you see college athletics going in the next 5-10 years? A lot of talk about collective bargaining and things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, one thing that people will often ask about is conference expansion.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Greg Sankey, he means what he says. We're very happy with where we are. We're having Oklahoma and Texas come in, great additions to the conference. We're very happy there. And so we want to continue to do well as the current group of schools in the college playoffs. By the way, we're going to see new money coming in from the college football playoffs. That's the SEC and the Big Ten get a higher percentage than everybody else because of the quality of the football and participation in the playoff. So I see things holding for a while. What I don't know is when the next TV contracts come up, what happens then? I would like to see us stay as the SEC the way we are. I read about people pontificating. A lot of journalists are talking about a super conference. What does that look like? And there are some schools particularly if you're not in the SEC, Big Ten, who are very interested in a super conference. But a super conference would be almost like a semi-pro type of conference that breaks off from the NCAA and that kind of thing. A lot of creativity, a lot of dreaming about that for some people. But where we are in the SEC, you can't be better situated than where we are. Because not only do we compete in the best conference for athletics, great institutions academically, but we don't have to fly across the country, to go send our athletes from the East Coast to the West Coast or back and forth or to the Midwest to just compete on a Tuesday or on a Saturday. We are regionally bound in a great way where we do fly. Our teams do fly, but they can also bus. Some of them will bus. So we're very happy with where we are. And so there will be discussion among some outlets about a super conference that happens, but that's not what we're focused on. We're very happy in the SEC.
How happy are you to kick off this football season
I'm
soon?
Yeah.
Opening in Atlanta too. That's a little different opportunity.
I'll be in Atlanta for the game, and several of the trustees will be there. And I'm excited about it. It'll be the first football game I see in Mercedes-Benz. I've been to a football stadium there, and a football game there. And so I'm looking forward to that. That is a great opportunity for us to showcase our program, that 3 o'clock time slot on Sunday. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what the guys can do. It's going to be really tough competition throughout. And again, we're at another season where strength of schedule should matter because we're going to have one of the toughest schedules by virtue of our draw, who we play with, both non-conference and in conference. And so I know there's some places that will make jokes about some schools the SEC plays out of conference. We play Virginia Tech and Clemson. I mean, these are tough teams, and what we have in the conference, that schedule, that's a tough schedule. So I'm excited about it because I think we've got the program, the coaches, and particularly the players to compete and do really well. Like I said earlier, I think it's a playoff team.
Dad, you've been more than gracious with your time, man. We've enjoyed it. Lots of great information. Before we let you get out of here, is there anything we didn't cover? Anything you want to add? Anything that you think needs to be said?
Well, I would just say one, thank you to you guys for what you're doing, helping inform our fan base about what's going on. You and the other media outlets do a great job around here. I would be concerned if we didn't have a whole lot of media attention around our athletic programs. That would be a real problem for us. So I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you trying to keep things factual and asking good questions. Yes, trustees, we need to ask good, hard questions of the administration. You guys should ask good, hard questions and get the facts and disseminate those facts. But I'm particularly excited about our fan base and the excitement they have around the university and what they bring, the energy they bring to our programs, not just in football, but all our athletic programs. And when you go to a soccer game or a softball game or volleyball game here at the university, the stands are packed with students and people who are in the community who want to be a part of supporting the Gamecock Nation. So I'm excited about where we are, and really excited about the energy around the program. And a lot of that has to do with the fans and what they're doing for the University of South Carolina. Obviously, I mentioned what's happening on the academic side. Really excited about those opportunities. We have a great president who is really decisive, really active. And when we talk about what's going on, I want I want us to get things done. And the University of South Carolina should be on offense all the time. And that's what we're doing in multiple fronts. We are actually going out and looking at how we can serve the state, how we can partner with the state in academic programs and research programs and economic development, but also athletic and what we can do to serve the state. But we need to be on offense all the time.
Good stuff, Dad. We appreciate it again.
Absolutely.
Let's do it again. Sometime.
Let's do it.
Look forward to.
Like I said, I appreciate you asking. Nobody asked. So you called, and so I'm happy to talk about what's going on and talk about the board. And like I said, we got a great board. I'm excited about some of the things that are coming up here in the near future. So more news to come.
Yeah, more news to come, and we'll leave it right there. Floyd Building was a great spot to do this too.
Yeah,
So this was great. All right, for Thad, for Chris, I'm Wes. This has been a special edition of GC Live here on GamecockCentral.com. Appreciate you all for joining us, and y'all have a good one.